The mid-season patch is here. Let's see what they have decided to do for this patch. Oh my god, what have they done? Now, you might say I may be overreacting, that it is not that bad, that Junk needed a bit of toning down. And while I agree Junkrat needed toning down, I don't think you all understand how bad of a change this is. To understand why this change is so bad, first let's talk about what made Junkrat as strong as he was before this change. There are three main things that made Junkrat's power completely spike up. The first one is his projectile hitbox. While this one has been with us since season 9, it also made the following things that I'm about to talk about be even more noticeable because of how big his projectile became after season 9. Second cause is armor. Junkrat after the armor change does insane amounts of damage into armor tanks, while tanks like D.Va, who already had an extremely one-sided matchup into him, don't care as much. Tanks as Ramat or Reinhardt noticed this change a lot, and Junkrat along with Pharah gained overnight a 30% damage increase into a lot of tanks. While this instantly spiked Pharah's power, which caused her tune down, in Junkrat's case it took another adjustment for it to finally break, but it was just a matter of time before this alone caused that any other adjustment could end up breaking the character. Multiple Junkrat players warned about it, and time has proved us correct. Now, the third reason, and what I personally believe caused Junkrat to break, was the last change he got to the way that his ricochet works on his primary. While this was a set of 2 changes, and I praised the second change to no end, the first change that was supposed to fix a problem to allow the second change to happen didn't work. It tuned it down a little bit, but it didn't fix the problem. So instead of this being a power sip, it became a straight buff. So with another straight buff plus all that I mentioned previously, he pretty much broke. Now, you may be asking, but what was this problem? The first change of this set was supposed to change how easy it was to walk on Junkrat spam after the second bounce, by how big the hitbox on that phase of its lifetime, while in that sense it made it harder to walk into it. The second change also made it move more during it, which completely nullified the work of the first change and acted more as a band-aid than an actual fix to that problem, because you could still walk into them anyways. Heck, even to the point that Flats himself realized that this change kinda backfired on them.
I think that the buffs made his spam even better, which is like the opposite of what they said they were trying to do. I remember, I think, reading it and going, isn't that going to do the opposite? It did. Shocker.
Having talked now about why Junkrat kinda snapped, I want you all to think, why do all these 3 points point out with Junkrat's strength? They point to his primary fire. I didn't mention mine once in this whole section. Why? Because mine was not the problem. It never was. This is what makes me not like this change. It's not the fact that they nerfed Junk, which did need to happen eventually, but that they nerfed him in the worst possible way. I have praised time and time again the season 9 hotfix changes to Junkrat, especially focusing on the cooldown change of Concussion Mine. It shifted Concussion Mine into a more versatile but less powerful ability. It enabled new kinds of playmaking and shifted Junkrat's uptime to be more in line with other characters with similar characteristics to him, as it actually helped him move more and close the distance more effectively, improving the fun factor on Junkrat a lot. The reversion of this change on the last patch not only took away one of the best steps forward, but it changes nothing of what makes Junkrat frustrating to play against. You are not going to feel this change when playing against Junkrat. He's going to feel just as oppressive in the same scenarios as he was before the patch. The only people that are noticing this change are more hardcore and dedicated Junkrat players that just got their options completely cut down. The only thing this change does is punish Junkrat for playing more aggressively. It punishes him for setting up longer flanks or rollouts by completely reducing Junkrat's uptime, while it encourages more defensive play and camping angles and corners for Junkrat, which is by far the most frustrating part of Junkrat, both for the people playing as and against the character. There is nothing good to point for this change. It changes nothing to his power level, it punishes proactive play and forces an already pretty defensive sided character to play even more defensively. Everything is wrong with this change. Everything. Now, after hearing why I don't like the change, a lot of you might ask, what would I have done instead? This is the second part of the video, where I actually will suggest ideas and proper solutions and changes for Junkrat. While I was already preparing a better video on the topic on what changes Junkrat needed and what direction she should be headed at, which was aimed to come towards the end of the season, I feel like I can use a bit of what was planned on that video here. My suggestion is divided in targeting specifically the first and third points of Junkrat's strength that I pointed out at the start of the video, because the second point doesn't depend directly on Junkrat and will require a general change to armor. If you want a suggestion on that department, I really recommend watching Spider's video about armor. He did an exceptionally good job on explaining how armor works and suggesting a good solution to prevent all the power spikes the recent armor changes caused, both upwards in the case of Junkrat or Pharah, for example, or downwards in cases like Genji or Soldier. Now, into the changes. The first change is aimed at reducing how strong Junkrat's primary hitbox is. While the hitbox is interesting for making Junkrat's direct more consistent and making them not struggle as much into strafing, I don't think it's good that that same hitbox stays in the ricochet, as it makes it really frustrating and objectively harder to dodge the different bounces. So the first change I will do would be the following. Reduce the primary hitbox by 30% after the first bounce. While this change is not as harsh as the hitbox reduction on the second bounce and forward, it homogenizes the transition and fixes the pain point of playing against Junkrat of how much harder it becomes to dodge the first ricochet after Season 9, and especially the bounce speed increase, while it keeps the increased hitbox on normal directs to reward dueling and going for accurate shots. The second changes meant to target the third reason behind Junkrat's strength would be the following. If Junkrat's primary hits the ground after having bounced once already in any surface, it blows up. Time for detonation is now instant, getting rid of the 0.3 seconds that the nade stays frozen on the floor. These changes are aimed at changing the way the lifetime of his primary works, by making the nade explode on contact with the floor if it had already bounced once, completely getting rid of the possibility of walking into the nade sliding on the floor, while the old 50% hitbox reduction still remains active when the nade bounces multiple times off surroundings, which are way easier to dodge. I really hope this video gets to be heard by the devs, even if it might be hard. Heck, even impossible. It makes me sad to see how all the good work they had put on taking Junkrat in a good direction was sadly ruined by a change that most likely came more in a hurry of Junkrat's recent spike in power. I also hope you all enjoyed my explanation, both in why I dislike the change and in the suggestions I made. This video also saw work for me as a test for this format of video, and for me to adjust if necessary the upcoming video about how I would improve Junkrat, which could even be called a rework project, even if we are not going to exactly change any ability completely. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So, bye bye!